Hello, my name is Janet Maine.
And I'm Alycia Champion, and we are Maine Champion Coaching, and we help families build their most independent adult life for their individual with disability and plan for a future when they're no longer here.
Hello, and welcome to the Redirect Podcast, where we have spirited conversations and tell stories about finding purpose in retirement. For us, retirement isn't an ending, it's a beginning. Time to redirect your energy, wisdom, and passion toward new horizons. Whether you've recently retired, are planning for that transition, or are years into this journey, this podcast is your companion in navigating this meaningful chapter of life. Today on the Redirect Podcast, we are going to talk about a subject that surprisingly is more prevalent than anyone really would expect. It's a topic that has directly impacted both you and me, Curt, in our lives, and is going to continue to be one for the future. For our listening audience, we both have siblings with special needs, and Curt, in addition, you have a son, Alex, a great young man who faces many challenges. So to kick off our conversation today, I'm going to tell you about my sister, Lisa. My sister, Lisa, is the youngest of 7 siblings and was born with a mutant gene that caused tuberous sclerosis, a condition where little tubers kind of grow on the brain. She wasn't supposed to live past 5, but we just celebrated her 60th birthday. Her condition was hard because the medical community knew very little about how to treat it. And it was kind of a constant trial and error as we were growing up with many, many different types of drugs. But since she couldn't communicate, she was kind of a headbanger and she had grand mal seizures. So we as kids had to learn how to respond and how to treat, these seizures when they happened. But at age 10, by nothing short of a miracle, my parents were able to get her into a wonderful home run by Sister Rosemary Connolly and the Sisters of Mercy in North Chicago called Misericordia Home, where she thrived and still thriving given her condition. And her entire life is managed by the Misericordia Home staff, and I can't say enough about how great that staff is.
How old is she now?
She is 60. We just celebrated her 60th birthday last weekend. Everybody got together and the staff brought her down to the south side where my mom lives, who's 94, and she was on the podcast earlier when we started and still is active and on it. But just to see my sister Lisa show up and smile at all of us, and it's a smile. This is such a big thing, and we just know that she's connecting in her own way. But that, it's all been so good because of the Misericordia Home and staff, and they were set up and they manage all of the parts of Lisa's life right now. But when it comes down to the funding, she's got Social Security that helps pay. There's fundraisers that help pay, and we all make contributions, and all that goes into her account, and they basically manage, to that account. So, like I said, it was a miracle to get her in, and we're really happy with where things are. So, Curt, how about you?
Well, my brother Jeff, he's 2 years older than me. He's 71. He also was given a short term to live when he was born. Said, be surprised if he made it through 6 months. He was impacted, I think, by phenobarbital when, being in the birth aspect of things, and that sort of short-circuited some things. But very sick as a young child, a lot of asthma. I remember growing up and, he'd have an asthma attack at night and the whole house was up and we were all concerned about Jeff and such. But he is still thriving. He's age 71. He currently resides in Akron, New York, in a group home, which again was sort of the plan that our parents had and we had as a family, in the sense that my parents committed to him that he would not leave the house until, as they said, they were taken out in a pine box. And my brother Jeff would always remember that and said, I'm staying here until my parents both leave in a pine box. And again, God is amazing in how it all worked, because as my father passed from COPD, 14 months later, my mother passed from colon cancer. But the week prior to her passing, he was elevated up on the list and found in a group home, was made into this group home community. And we got there to be able to take pictures and show her before she had passed that Jeff is okay, and which was a big concern for both my dad and mom. It's like, well, what about Jeff? And he's thriving. He enjoys it. It's his life. And I talk to him every week, and he's very much enjoying the experience, and he's happy. He is also the reason why I went to college at Bowling Green and got a special education degree as well as a master's degree. He inspired me for that, got me into the industry, and I taught at 169 programs back in the day here up in Henry County and Wood County in Ohio, and then went on to work for the Special Olympics. I know that as a student, I was always working with my parents to say, hey, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing this. And they did a great job. And I always made a comment that if I had a chance to do it over again, I'd do a better job in relationship with my brother. And lo and behold, I have a son, Alex, which those listeners have heard, and those people that know me know Alex. He's an inspiration to me. He is now 33 years old. And
he's a cool dude.
Yeah, he's just, when he looks at you in the eye after you've had a tough day and he says, I love my life, it sort of puts your life where it should be, and it's really not that big of a deal. And through one of our episodes here, we got to know of your existence, Alycia and Janet, of Maine Champion Coaching. And I reached out to you guys and said, hey, I think we need to get together because we've got some future planning we need to do with Alex. Again, in the industry that I was and watching what my parents went through, I very much want Alex to have a form of independence that we can enjoy and observe and be a part of, as opposed to having decisions made for him at times when decisions need to be made. So this is sort of going to be a great conversation for me. I'm looking forward to learning more from what I already have from you guys, as well as having a conversation about that. But we'll get into that. Adam, do you have anybody in your family connection or something like that that has some special needs or potential concerns down the road?
Directly in my immediate and extended family, no, I don't have anybody in that category. But interestingly, for whatever reason, 4 of my 5 closest friends all have someone in their family with this situation. And I'm excited about today's episode because it's not just going to help a lot of people. I mean, it's going to help me be a better friend. It's going to help me figure out how to, do what I should be doing, and maybe what I shouldn't be doing about how to help and how to participate and just be a blessing. So I'm excited about that. So why don't I kick us off with introducing our guests today. Today's friends of the Redirect podcast are Janet Maine and Alycia Champion. Janet is a retired parent mentor, and Alycia is a parent resource coordinator in the Forest Hills School District. Janet and Alycia are team leaders and co-founders of Maine Champion Coaching, a firm providing advocacy, resources, and support for families navigating adulthood for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Janet and Alycia offer experience from their professional advocacy work in local schools and personal experience raising their sons, Matt and Max, who are now living their best lives. Ladies, welcome to the Redirect podcast.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, we're excited to be here.
So on the Redirect podcast, we talk a lot about redirection and inflection points in our lives. As parents of children with disabilities, how did you navigate kind of this form of redirection? And you can talk about how you got here, as part of that journey.
So, as you said earlier, I'm still working as a parent resource coordinator in a school district. Janet was a parent mentor. Interestingly, she was my mentor when I came into my role, I think about 12 years ago. And that's how we initially connected. But in our roles, we worked with families navigating special education in those school years. And what we found was parents continued to call us after their kids graduated because they knew we were living in this world. And we had built up those relationships over the years, and they saw us as a trusted resource. And so for years, we have been saying there needs to be more help in the adult world. Families really do feel that the cliff is real. And so the redirect was a natural progression of that need of information in the school world to a need of information in the adult world.
Were you surprised at how many people are affected by, just special needs situations?
Not really. I feel like it's been my world as long as, my son was diagnosed at 2. And it can be kind of isolating. So I think I'm always happy to meet others who I can help, support, and just welcome into this community.
You spend a lot of time as a parent just planning those next steps, from the 0 to 3 to the school age years. And when you get to that adult world, Alycia said the cliff is real. There's nowhere for families to go to get help, to get support. And there's a lot going on in those years, and there's a lot of planning that families need to do. And it naturally came. We want to help families feel comfortable. That's what we spent our time in the school districts when families were sitting at that IEP meeting and it was scary and overwhelming. We were there to help them feel more comfortable, talk about what they want, and show their vision for their child. And it just naturally comes into the adult world when it's more daunting and frightening.
Is this a situation where necessity is the mother of invention? I mean, you guys had your own needs and possibly realized a vacuum or a void in support, information, and advocacy. And as a result, you went and created this Maine Champion coaching born out of your own need. Is that fair to say?
I think so. Yeah. And I do think we started Maine Champion with a view of we lived on 2 ends of the need spectrum. And we should probably talk a little bit about our own son. So I have a son who's 26 now, who struggled mightily with autism. His last 5 years of school were spent in a residential school up in Cleveland. And he was placed by the school district in that and Children's Hospital in that setting as his least restrictive environment. And so that was a pretty extreme situation for us. I think about Janet earlier, you were saying, there's so much planning that's going on. Honestly, when my son was younger, when Max was younger, we were just getting through days. Planning was so far down on the list.
You were surviving.
We were just in survival mode. And Janet's story is a little bit different.
So I have a 28-year-old son with Down syndrome, and his path to adulthood looks very different from Alicia's. He went to Princeton City Schools here in Cincinnati, Ohio, wanted to take his diploma when he was 19. As an individual with a disability, you can stay in school in Ohio till you're 22. Matt did not want to continue his high school path. He wanted to go to college. So these college programs were very new when we were looking at this journey for him. And we started looking at all the different programs that were throughout the U.S., and we naturally came to the wonderful program at the University of Cincinnati here. It was just such a great experience for him. It was a way of developing their core mission, their core vision was building that adult life and giving those advocacy skills to my son. And he knew what he wanted.
As I mentioned, I've experienced this my whole life. And a big difference I see between my brother and my son is that the time of their lives when this all happened. My brother did not benefit from all of the services that are out there now that Alex has had to receive.
And that's just a function of age, right? Those services were less available.
Correct. I mean, there was this one school in Buffalo, School 84, that's where they all went. They all went, and I'm saying that purposefully.
Yeah.
Okay. There wasn't a mainstreaming situation. There wasn't an aspect of IEPs, which for those listeners that don't know, that's an individual educational plan. And so having that past experience and then going to school and learning all of the nuts and bolts of special education, I found myself better equipped. My brother actually hated me when I'd come home on summer breaks because I'd run all kinds of tests on him. You're going to walk out to the tree. I'm going to count how many times you fall, and we're going to time you. And then
he was homework for you.
Oh, yeah, baby. He was a senior project at times. And then when my parents were gone, you're going to do the dishes, you're going to take a shower. And he would always say to me, I can't wait until you go back to school. So taking those learnings and then having the systems that are involved, Alex's life was easier. We had early intervention. We had programs that were set up for him. We had the schooling, and I understand exactly what you're saying, ladies, in the sense that everything is programmed, everything is methodical. As soon as he turned 18, we had some wonderful advocates for us to say, now is the time you sign him up for Social Security. Now is the time you sign them up for blankety blank, because it gets harder as they get older. So you get it now, get them on the books, and you're off and running. It was great. Now, that's when we lived in Pennsylvania. And then we moved to Ohio. And now, all of a sudden, the rules change because it's a different state. There's different benefits. There's different programs. So, sort of leading into this conversation, here we are that pretty much had it together, got him all set on up with funding and all this. He had services that was being paid for. But then we come to Ohio, and it's like, well, now what do we do? And my experience, and from someone that lived with it as well as went to school in it, I'm here and I'm like, I don't know how to connect. And that's why I love what you ladies are doing, because you are offering tremendous service.
Well, and I think when even parents in Ohio who have been successful all through those school years say their child graduates and they've got a job, but then the wheels come off 5 or 6 years later and they've never needed the supports from, say, a county board or some of those other supports, or they've lost faith in some of the supports that were being provided. They really don't have those mitten strings to, those connections that they need to get them back on track and to find that path again of success for their child.
And also, it's learning the systems. And she talks about the wheels falling off. Here's an example of my own son. We're going along. He has a job at P&G. Life is good. He has an apartment. He's living his life. And all of a sudden you get a letter from Social Security that says your son no longer has a disability and doesn't qualify for Social Security anymore. And I'm like, wow, the U.S. government found a cure for Down syndrome. Help me out. So then you go into absolute panic mode, because this is your plan. What am I going to do if my son doesn't receive Social Security anymore? It's it's terrifying as a parent, and you don't know where to go. And I'm like, take deep breaths, Janet, go into your Rolodex of people that you know who can help you, who can answer this question. And I went to the person who I knew would be able to answer my question. And she's like, take a deep breath. Here's the form you need to fill out. This happens, but there's no manual that comes. You don't know this is going to happen. And a lot of people will say, my child's got to quit their job. They need to stay home, because they don't know what to do next.
Yeah,
and
thankfully you knew the person to call.
I
and
knew
that
the person.
And that person knew where the form was and had the wherewithal to say, hey, we're going to get through it. Take a breath.
Yep.
It's okay.
Even this weekend, when we were celebrating my sister's 60th birthday, we started telling stories after she had left. The family stayed around, and there was a time when all of a sudden they were going to move my sister out of Misericordia or down to a different place, just because they had people on the list that had bigger political ties, and they'd got to keep moving in and out. And if my brother-in-law, who ran all special needs programs in Putnam County in Ohio, didn't jump in and say, you can't do that. This is a state-run school. This is back in Chicago, and the Illinois rules took over. but somebody who knew the system, who worked in the system, had to come in, jump in and say, no, you can't do that. I can only imagine what everything would be like in this time frame that is young adult to adulthood and all the different decisions. It seems like when kids are young, they have school systems that are better equipped, or they have programs, they're learning more about. But beyond that, when they get into their 20s or 30s, they're meeting a lot of different special situations where if you got an expert, Maine champion, give us the path forward here.
Hence the value of bringing you guys in to share the blessings that you get to be for others that you had to discover on your own, right? So how long has Maine Champion been around?
We have been around for just almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years in August. And I remember sitting there, we had someone that was actually the HR person that helped get my son hired at P&G, sat down with us and brainstormed ideas. How is this going to look? And it has, the mission and the vision behind it have not changed very much. We're still core to that. It was just, we knew what we wanted to do, and we just kind of started doing it, and fortunately had a doctor here in Cincinnati, Dr. Lauren Wong, who gave us some clients to kind of figure out what Maine Champion was going to look like.
And what is that vision? What's that core ideology for you guys?
Our belief is no matter what the disability is, if they can attain the most independence possible for them, whatever that independent life looks like for them, that's how they're going to be the most happy. And I use the example of my own son, who has significant supports throughout his day. But even given that, he is more independent than I ever imagined he could be. And I also think that it's the independence that makes him happy.
Both of us see that. And my son lives in an apartment with his 2 friends, Ubers to and from work every day, has pretty minimal supports. He has a gentleman that comes in 20 hours a week, because given the choice, my son would have pizza and Coke every meal of every day. So he just needs somebody to talk about health and how to be a healthy person, because I do want him to live long.
Alycia, what is the living situation for your son? We just heard Janet's that he's incorporated into a community. It's apartment living. It's college living, right? What about Max?
So he wasn't quite aged out of the system yet, but it was the program that he was in didn't go till 22. It just went till 21. And so we determined that it was probably best to transition him into that adult life at that point. At that point, he was still exhibiting some pretty significant behaviors, and no one thought it was really safe for him to be home. And so we were very fortunate. We worked with Hamilton County. We started thinking about, okay, what about an apartment? What about a condo? And my brother-in-law actually is a real estate developer. And as we were kind of running through the places where we could find housing for him, we ran into challenges with, I always say the first thing you notice about Max is not his autism, it's his size. He's linebacker size. Mm-hmm. And so he jumps. And so we were really kind of afraid that he was going to get kicked out of an apartment. He was going to not be successful. So through a conversation with my brother-in-law one night, I was saying, what are we going to do? And he says, well, why don't you buy a house? Well, easy for him to say.
Yeah.
He buys houses and sells houses all the time. And
I've got $400,000 just sitting in my pocket.
Exactly. And obviously that was not even on our radar. But through some more thoughtful conversations, they ended up buying a house. I found the house and we ended up renovating it. And he was my landlord. So the plan was that he would buy a house and we would see if that worked. And if it worked, then we would buy the house from him. And so he was our landlord for the first 6 months. And we knew almost immediately that this was it, that
It was going to work.
that it was going to work. And my son is minimally verbal. And one of the first nights he was there, he stood by the light switch and he turned it on and off and he said, "My place, my place, my place." And it was just amazing because I've never heard that language out of his mouth before. And we do use a housing voucher to help pay the mortgage. It doesn't pay the mortgage, but it helps make it possible for us to sustain him in that house.
And he has care.
And he has care that's funded through a waiver. So again, he's a pretty high needs individual. So he was on everybody's radar.
We will rejoin our conversation in just a moment. Thank you for listening to the Redirect Podcast. We appreciate your support. Do you love what you're hearing? Don't keep it to yourself. Follow the Redirect Podcast on Apple Podcast and Spotify and never miss an episode that inspires your next chapter in life's journey. While you're there, hit a 5-star rating, leave a review, and share your favorite episode with a friend who's ready for their own life pivot. And don't forget to join the conversation on Instagram at The Redirect Podcast. Comment, tag us, and let us know how you are redirecting your journey. Now let's get back to today's conversation. I think for all of our listeners, this is my own personal experience. You have to be an advocate for your loved one or your friend. In your particular case there, Adam, that's how you can help, is to let people know that these services exist, because sometimes we fit into the system. And the system says you're going to school until 21 years old, and then we're going to put you into this program where you go to a workshop and you're just amongst others that, and again, everybody is different in their skill sets and abilities. But what's important, and I've always been this for my son Alex, and I will continue to be so, I'm an advocate for him. Because he doesn't have the ability to go out and knock on somebody's door or make a phone call and say, I can do this. And I don't want to feel like we have to throw him into the system, and then that's where he sits. And so what you guys have done by getting your sons at your early age, in their 20s, right out of school, into a independent living situation, working at Procter & Gamble, which is great. My son Alex works at a sports club, and yeah, he takes care of towels. But guess what? He loves his job. He works every day. He's there from 10 to 3. He gets a paycheck every week. And he treats us for dinner, which I really like.
Well, and every individual should be able to work. And so many people want to work and can't because they can't find that perfect situation, or they don't think that they can work because they don't think they can earn money, and it will hurt some of their other benefits. And that's just not always true.
So what are the services that Maine Champion Coaching provides family members?
It varies. So what we do is we have an intake process that when we meet with a family for the first time, usually families come to us with kind of a 911, whether it be, I need housing, I need a job, they don't know how to cook. So we sit down and we'll talk about, what are their strengths? What do they do well? What do they struggle with? And just kind of find out through our conversations, maybe some other areas that they need help in. And we can help with we're connectors, connect you with the right people for anything, whether it be job searching, if that's what you want to do. Also, through our conversation, we found out that you need to learn how to cook. They can't live on their own. They don't know how to cook. They don't know how to grocery shop. So it varies what we do. We help with whatever that family is struggling with at that time. Or we've had clients come to us and say, I'm turning 70 in 3 months, and my dream was that my son would be moved out of the house. Can you help me find a place?
How does somebody find you? I mean, has it been word of mouth? Is it through the school system?
So a lot of people are finding us through word of mouth, although we're now having people come and we don't know how they found us. We do have a website, mainechampion.com. We do get referrals from families who have worked with us before.
Hamilton County has often referred people to us if it's just a situation that needs a lot of intense work, they'll come to us and say, "Hey, can you help this family?"
That's
Yeah.
cool. So you have some functions inside the system, as we call it, that are referring you in certain circumstances.
So when we started, we actually thought that the county boards might have a problem with what we are doing because we really are doing some of the things that an SSA, a service support administrator, would do. And so we thought that there might be a problem with that they might
Like it's
see
competition.
us. Yes, but it really has not been competition. It has been immediately collaborative. As soon as they knew that we were there, both Janet and I were kind of very well known. And so, it wasn't, how dare you do this job? It was, oh my gosh, we're so glad you're doing this job because you're the perfect people to do it.
That's great.
So we've all been talking about things that have touched us personally. And yes, Adam, you've made reference that you have associations out there. But let's sort of talk about how big this really is that's out there. And I did a little research like I always do with, when we talk about topics. And I found some things that were really sort of shocking. It says where adults with developmental disabilities live, 9% are in a supervised setting. 16% live alone or with a roommate, and 75% of those adults are living with a family member. Now, again, makes sense. My brother was an example of that, right? And I'm heading down this road myself, 70 years old, 33-year-old son. What are some of the facts in regard to the population, the need, the issues, the concerns?
So if we take those numbers to Ohio specifically, and this comes from a housing study that was done about a year ago, there are about 297,282 individuals living with autism or IDD in Ohio, and over 77,000 of those individuals are living with caregivers that are 60 years and older.
Wow.
And so if you think about that 77,000, we fit 70,000 people in Paycor Stadium. So we could fill Paycor Stadium with the individuals who are living with IDD or autism, living with caregivers that are 60 years and older.
And we see most of the families don't have a plan. They assume a sibling or someone else is going to take care of their individual and not really realizing the ramifications of that not planning and what that does to families. We've had several clients who are siblings and they come to us, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, all of the learnings and navigation of the system and finances and best practices, all learned over 30, 40 years, are no longer available, and the poor sibling is like, "Hey, I'm in for it, but I don't know a thing."
Right.
And
Potentially.
And they don't have the vocabulary.
Mm.
And vocabulary is a huge piece of this, knowing how to articulate what it is that you need and what it is that you want for your individual.
And if this person has never been alone, has always had care, sometimes, the wife or the husband will have to quit their job. And we've had several clients kind of fit into that. So it can be devastating to families if you don't have a plan. And it's hard things to talk about. Yeah. Nobody wants to talk about this. My kids, Mom, stop talking about dying, but you have to have a plan.
Yeah. And that was our strategy in moving to Cincinnati. We have a son that's been here for 10, 11 years now. He's married, which is great. So nice to be next to him. And my wife has family members, sisters that have here an extended family. But we were living outside of Pittsburgh. And if we were to finish our lives in Pittsburgh, Alex would then be that man on an island. No family connection, nothing. So we decided to move to Cincinnati and let's put him in the village. And now it's our job as parents, as well as family members, is to turn them over to the village. We're educating the village. We're trying to encourage the village to do more with Alex. And even to the point where I'm going on vacation with my dear friend here, Dale, at the end of June, we're going out west. And Jackie and I are going to be gone for 3 weeks. And Alex is going to be at home with his older brother And, we're giving him skill sets so that he can handle this. He has lived by himself on occasion, but we're doing these things deliberately to help him move on. Now, you mentioned one thing about like Social Security and all the things that we have to keep up to speed. I'm the keeper of the paper at the house. And if something was to happen to me, Jackie would say, I'd be lost because I know you talk to Social Security every month about Alex. I know you talk to him about health care. I know you do all this type of stuff. Where is that, Curt? Is there a resource? Do you guys know of a resource that can be used to help the family to know the life of that individual?
There actually is an amazing resource that we stumbled upon, and it's called Dani Plan, DANI, and it's developed by a family that has a daughter with pretty significant needs in Michigan. And it is a comprehensive letter of intent that's done electronically, and you can put every last detail in there. And we actually sell that as part of our packages, and we'll help families because it's a lot of work sitting down and writing every last detail, how to put Matt's wages in monthly, what are his doctors, when does he go? How often does he go? So it is this letter of intent that you can leave, that you can share parts of it with people you want to share it with. And then you can also say, I don't want to share this part. It's HIPAA compliant. It's amazing the relief that I have just by purchasing one of these. After Alycia and I met with Joel, we both looked at each other and we were like, well, I don't know about you, but I'm buying one of these.
We've got to try it out and see how it works. And there's a journaling piece of it. And so when, say, Max goes to the doctor, or when I fill out he gets help with his heat. So we have to fill out something called PIP every year. And so when I fill that paperwork out, I always document when it happens. So there's kind of a running cycle of, so in May, you're going to have to do this. In June, you're going to have to do this. And it's totally adaptable. You can create your own tiles that have only information from certain other pieces.
On the Redirect podcast, we sort of talk to an audience that's getting ready for retirement or moving into retirement type of thing. We always talk about being proactive planners. Mm-hmm. This is yet another example that we have to be proactive planning with our loved ones or our friends that may have issues, that may not know where to go and how to do it. So thank you for sharing some of those ideas.
A lot of what you're dealing with is in the state of Ohio. Yeah. If I'm in Illinois or if I'm in any other state, is this applicable nationwide?
There are some pieces of what we do that are applicable nationwide for sure, like Dani Plan, like those sorts of long-term, how have you thought about this? Certainly starting those questions of where's your individual going to live? What drives them? So asking the questions, we certainly can get people started, and then we will not be able to help somebody find a job in Chicago. But we certainly can talk about some of the supports that may exist there that they could reach out to.
Exactly. Our relationships are in Ohio for sure. So we will know exactly who you need to contact.
So you've got knowledge of the systems that are built specifically in Ohio, but you probably have some knowledge of the systems in other states, but you can at least advise clients, hey, let's get you connected with that next step. You can uncover some of those state, local resources.
Yeah, we can help with just that planning process, those things that you need to do in general, but really knowing exactly the person you need to contact is pretty difficult in other states. But we do have clients in other cities.
And I'll give an example. So we have here in Hamilton County, there is an idea called Covenant of Support. And we've steered a couple of our families through this. Janet, I think, is actually going to be doing it herself in a bit. But it's a wonderful way of creating kind of what you were talking about earlier of that village, creating that village for your individual. And so there is a video on Hamilton County's website. So say if somebody in Chicago called us and said, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? we could point them to a resource like that. Hey, look at this video and see how you could apply this to your situation, because that is absolutely replicable anywhere. So just knowing about a resource, being able to describe it, and helping families brainstorm. I mean, it's true. We are connectors and we are brainstormers.
And you meet one person with a disability, you've met one person. And so every family has different needs, disabilities look different. Alycia and I, when we went into this, thought we were on each end of the spectrum. We learned very quickly that there are people that live outside of both of our lives that we helped.
What are the biggest obstacles that you face in educating, helping families let go, of their adult children to pursue an independent lifestyle?
I think it's fear of the unknown.
Hmm.
I think that there are a lot of obstacles, but ultimately, I think the biggest one sometimes is just fear of the unknown and just getting started. It's an overwhelming process.
Oh, so you're dealers in confidence.
And hope.
And
Yeah.
hope. We're hope builders.
Yeah. I love that.
Hope builders and connectors, I really feel like is the core of what Maine Champion is about. Because we're living it, come into our lives, see our lives, we share our lives of our sons. So that helps families be hopeful and then connectors through our job.
And we never put ourselves out there as kind of, oh, we've got this all figured out and it's all perfect. But we are living it in a way that is real and it's navigable.
Jackie and I reached out to Alycia and Janet to get together and do this. And I have to admit, we talk about some of the obstacles and, you've heard my story and you know where my heart is. But it's a hard thing.
It's terrifying.
And, to say to Alex that day, hey, we're going to put you, it's time for you to have your own apartment. It's hard. And I appreciate you guys and what you're doing because you're giving us the confidence because you have examples that work. You have experiences that you share with us that say how it can work and that it is hard. And sometimes I think I'm looking at the big picture like I always do, that elephant in the room, and I need to be looking at it in pieces. And again, the referrals that you've given us, the information that we have to complete, which is very involved. As a family, we have to submit this back to continue the conversation of where we're going to go next and what the next steps are. That's a process. But it is a hard thing to let, and it is even with any child once you let them go, right? Once you've done your job as a parent, now they're out in the world. But there's just something about this extra one. Yeah.
The other thing that Alycia, because we are living it, we have learned a few things that give us peace of mind. I have an app on my phone, and there are nights I'll wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning. I'll be like, where's Matt? Is he okay? I'll just have this just awful feeling come over me, and I'll grab my phone and I look at Life. I get on the Life 360 app and I'm like, oh, he's home. So's Jack. So's Duke, his 2 roommates. They're safe. They're all together and they do watch each other and take care of one another. And those natural supports just come into play through time. So it's hard and it's scary and it doesn't go away. But I think we have that about all our children. So that's the other thing we can help with. And Alycia has kind of different relief for Max, and I'll let her kind of share that.
So we have more of a monitoring. We have cameras at the house so that we can look in and make sure that he's where he's supposed to be or he's happy. But I go back to, I remember thinking about what you said earlier about how at the end of the day, you get that I'm happy with my life. And that's all we really want for our kids, is for them to be happy. And I always say Max's behavior will tell you everything you need to know. when he moved into his house, he was heavily medicated. He was taking a lot of psychotropic drugs to kind of help with some of that behavior. And one of the first things we did when we moved to Cincinnati was start talking with the psychiatrist about trying to taper some of these down, because it really was a frightening amount of medication that he was taking. He now takes none of that medication.
Wow.
He was taking Thorazine, and I would have been happy to get off the Thorazine. Then he was taking a lot of Invega. He doesn't take that anymore. So, I mean, he's down to basically Zyrtec.
Awesome.
And clonidine to help him get to sleep. That's really all we want. We just want our kids to be happy.
Doing this podcast, there are parallels, some parallels with, as we advance into our next 30, taking care of our parents. If a lot of the decisions, a lot of things I hear you talking about, just taking care of our parents takes planning, takes really digging in, and you have to get involved. And now, if you have special needs, that's another layer. There's so many emotional decisions to be made, because it's hard. It's hard just with parents. It's so much harder, I would think, with kids. In my conversations, again, with my brothers and sisters, and when my mom's 94, she's going to pass. We have one person who Misericordia said, who is that one person who's going to make decisions? Got to make sure that's really clear, and that person has all the information possible. I guess my kind of wrap-up question for you guys is, what advice would you give to those listening who may have an adult child with disabilities? What should they do? And I'm hoping that from this conversation, they'll know to give you a call. What's that advice?
I would say be courageous enough to take that first step, to break something down, come up with some sort of goal of, what can I do within the next 6 months that helps my child prepare for a life of happiness? We have something we do with some of our clients where we have 3 lists: things that my child can do independently, things that my child may need prompts with, and things my child may always need help with. And even taking a list of those 3 things really does help you celebrate what they've already are able to do, recognize the prompts that you're giving them, because a lot of times we're doing a lot more for our individuals than we may need to. And when you see it written on a list, you may recognize those things. Oh my gosh, I bet they could do that on their own if I stopped prompting so much. And then that third list of all the things that they are always going to be needing help for, identify the people who might be able to support them in that realm.
We have another tool that we use a lot with families, and it's a trajectory of what is that good life? What do you want for their life? And sometimes families, that seems very daunting. So we'll say, what don't you want? I think it's always really easy to come up with those. I don't want them to be lonely.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them to be sitting at home all day. I don't want them to become overweight, whatever that may be. Sitting down and just writing down what those goals are. And then that just becomes your true north. If you write it down, have the courage. Again, it's courage. It's hard. Curt, when you were crying, Alycia and I, we cry with families too. We know it's hard conversations. It really and truly is. And we want to be next to you and give you the courage to think through some of those really hard questions.
And that resource of the what I want, what I don't want, and the trajectory, those are Charting the Life Course resources. Those are free and available to everyone. If you Google Charting the Life Course, that's a wonderful resource for families to get started, to really start to write some of those things down.
And speaking of resources, if folks want to get in touch with you because they feel like your services are going to be a help to them, remind us again how to get a hold of you.
Drop us a line through mainechampion.com. We have a contact page.
Spell that for us, please.
It's Maine like the state, MAINE, champion, CHAMPION.com.
Alycia, Janet, I want to say thank you so much for taking something that's near and dear to your heart, your kids, and doing something for them. B, using all the experiences that you've experienced over life, as well as living with two fine sons, to do something like Maine Champion to encourage people like me. Hopefully others will be as influenced and excited about the opportunity to get to know you as I have. But I want to say thank you for coming in and sharing your personal stories as well as what you're doing about it and making a difference to others. I really, really appreciate your time this morning.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you. This was fun.
And I just want to thank you because last weekend I got to celebrate my sister's 60th birthday, and it led to a lot of questions and that we've discussed here. And as a friend to Curt here, I'm going to make sure he does what he has to do. I'm going to hold him accountable to doing that. But it's also encouraged me to really dig deeper into my sister's situation so that I clearly know that, she's going to be well provided for through the rest of her life and that she's happy and healthy and doing something. And this conversation really stimulated that. So thank you so much. And I feel like I have something that I can give to people if this conversation comes up, and I'm going to refer them your way.
Thanks so much for having us.
And thanks for joining us on the Redirect Podcast. Big thanks to the University of Cincinnati's 1819 Innovation Hub for allowing us to use the eSports recording studio to record today's podcast. Catch up on all the Redirect Podcast episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. To begin your Redirect journey, head over to redirect-u.com. Want to connect with the Redirect team? Feel free to email us at info@redirect-u.com. Remember, there's purpose in your life, so find it and go do something about it.
Hey, I've got one more comment. The Redirect Podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. We engage in an open, honest conversations about personal growth, life transitions, and the lessons we've learned through our own experiences. While we speak as experts in our own lives, we are not licensed therapists, medical professionals, or certified coaches. The content shared on the Redirect Podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the guidance of qualified professionals for any physical, mental, or emotional concerns that you may have. We're grateful to share this space with you and hope that our stories inspire reflection and connection. If you're in need of more support, we encourage you to connect with a trusted professional who can help.